Hello and welcome to Ann Arbor Shield. I'm Officer Doug Martell with Ann Arbor Police Department. Today I have with me Sergeant Jaime Crawford from our training unit. Welcome, Jaime.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about the hiring process, some of the recruiting processes that we use to hire new officers, and also we're going to talk a little bit about a video that was produced along with CTN and some of the changes that are going on in the police department as it relates to all the new hiring that we're going to have to do. Jaime, did you want to talk a little bit about the video that we produced with CTN?
Sure, yeah. It took us about a year to complete, and we really wanted to create a video to allow potential applicants and those that we're recruiting to see kind of what the department has to offer in terms of specialties, how we operate, what the city is like. So it's a real brief video, 5 minutes. We partnered with CTN and took us a little over a year to coordinate, to put together, but I really feel like it gives applicants a good idea as to what we're all about.
Okay, why don't we cut to that video, please?
My dad was a police officer. That gave me a hands-on feel and see of what the job was like. I think from that point, that's when I was hooked. After that, I went to college and I got my degree in criminal justice.
I'm born and raised in Ann Arbor, so I kind of always saw myself back in the city that I grew up in and the city that I love. So it was really important for me to be able to try and get back here to Ann Arbor.
I was a student here at the University of Michigan. I went through school and I started to realize how much the city of Ann Arbor had to offer. I absolutely fell in love with the agency itself, a very professional organization, and I knew that I wanted to stay within the city of Ann Arbor, and so it was just a very natural fit for me to apply here, and I was very fortunate to be offered a job.
When I first got out of college, I actually worked for another department for a few years, but we didn't have the camaraderie and the family feel. I wanted to come home. I know the people, I know the town, I'm very comfortable here, my family is here, and this is just where I wanted to get back to my roots and protect the town that made me who I am.
Some of our officers say that they really enjoy working for our department because of the city of Ann Arbor itself. The city itself offers a lot of different experiences, from our art fair to the JC Carnival. We have lots of races. There's always something going on within the city that really adds to the entire experience, and it brings not only our residents downtown, but also visitors from really around the world.
The best thing with Ann Arbor Police Department is that there's so many different options of things you can do. I've been on a downtown beat assignment early in my career, where I worked primarily on foot and on bicycle. I did canine handling for 10 years, and then I got to move into a supervisory role where I am now.
There's everything from bike patrol, you can become detective trained, motorcycle unit, underwater search and rescue. We have a Metro SWAT team. Just a lot of opportunities. Pretty much if you are interested in it within law enforcement, there is some avenue for you within the department to explore that.
What I enjoy most about working here is the many diverse experiences that you can have just between all the different people that I get to interact with. Obviously, Ann Arbor is a very diverse city with a lot of different people and a lot of different backgrounds, so that's always a lot of fun.
It's important that a police department represents or looks like what its community looks like. It's good to have a diverse population as far as religion, different cultures, race, sexual orientation, no matter what it is.
Law enforcement is like a dance. It takes both people. We are here to help people and to help serve the community, but we need the community to work with us as well. I think that's an important thing for folks to remember about law enforcement, is that we're not just robots, we're not just a uniform here to kind of give quick answers and move on.
I wear the uniform with pride. However, I'm also a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. When I take off my uniform at the end of the day, I'm driving my kids to practice like all of our other residents in the city of Ann Arbor. We just really like people to understand that we're human behind it, and decisions that I make at work impact my family as well. I feel like we have a very high quality team. We provide a high level of service to the community, to the citizens, to the visitors. It's a good place to work. I feel like we are a team, we're a family here at the agency, and high pressure calls or stressful times, we come together. I believe that we do it well.
What I really love is just making a difference and being able to help people. I love this job because it's fun. I enjoy coming into work every day, but I can have fun and still help people, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day for me.
We're looking for candidates who can wear many different hats, who communicate well, have a high sense of integrity, and folks who are really looking to challenge themselves and be part of a team that looks to get the job done, but also looks to do it with empathy, compassion, and taking care of the community.
We're back. What did you think of that video, Jamie? I thought that was really well put together.
I really liked the way that it turned out, and it was a whole department effort and really good tool to use to show interested candidates what the Ann Arbor Police Department is all about.
You know, with the focus of this program with being recruiting and hiring, and there's a lot of changes that are going on in the police department. Can you speak to some of those?
Yes. So we are a department in transition because of pending retirements. Really, the retirements have already started. Since 2012, we've hired approximately 55 new officers, and in the next 5 years, 45 more are eligible for retirement. So we're an agency of 124 sworn. So already those numbers, it's a big undertaking, and we're looking for the best people to hire. So it's really, we're trying to amp up our recruiting efforts and where we're going and who we're communicating with, and hopefully that pays off in the long run.
If I were a person that were looking to, I just wanted to get kind of a feel for the Ann Arbor Police Department. Obviously, I think that video is a good starting point. How would I access that video? I'm assuming it's on YouTube or?
It is on YouTube.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it's underneath Ann Arbor Police Department informational video. If you were just to type that in the search, it would come up.
And then I watched that video and I'm thinking to myself, I think that's the place I want to go. So my next, there's options as far as where I am in my life and what I've done previous to thinking about being a police officer. And if I want to become an Ann Arbor officer, there's got to be some portal, some starting point for me to start the process of being a police officer. I know when I started 23 years ago, there was a lot. It's a very different now than it was then. I mean, there wasn't all the electronics, so I filled out this little blue card, and I put on my name and some very general information about myself, and I handed it to the people in or the police department actually, and then that kind of started the process. And then I'm assuming they went through a whole bunch of these blue cards that people handed in, and then they would invite us to this background packet meeting, which is, what was it, Huron High School, and there was like 350 people there. And so I know it's different now.
It is a little bit different now, yes, certainly. So yeah, initially we come into contact with some of the candidates at local police academies. We try and get out and present to the academies while they're in session about our department and when we'll be having our hiring processes. We also...
Sorry to interrupt, but that's not like the recruiting part. It's kind of it's in stages, like recruiting and then hiring.
Correct.
And then, okay.
Yes, and they'll feed into one another. But yeah, so we really try and get out there and contact potential candidates. And then certainly when we have very defined application windows. So we don't necessarily have the blue cards as you described already, but we have very defined windows. So once we open an application process to accept applicants for new police officers, it's usually only open for 30 days. But as soon as that opens, we do a good job of getting the information out. We not only share it department-wide for folks to then share it with with potential candidates, maybe contacts that they have on patrol. But it also goes to MCOLS, which is the state governing body for law enforcement, and then get the information out to local academies. It also goes on our social media sites just to try and spread it as far and wide as possible to let folks know that we're hiring.
The names of the applicants that are funneling can come from all sorts of different sources. They can come from your recruiting trips to all the places that you go. They could come from other officers referring people in. I remember one of the people that's actually in our in-house academy right now, I met in the parking lot after a recruiting trip. He just came up to me when I was in the parking lot. I was loading all the recruiting stuff into the back of the police car, and he came up and we just had a conversation, and I gave him my card with your phone number on it, and now he's with us. So it can be
correct.
Start out as just a conversation, kind of informal, and just kind of blossom into employment for him. So.
And I really feel it should be, and it is, a department-wide effort. I love when I get officers from our midnight shift. They'll send me an email and say, hey, like, I just ran across this really, really great potential candidate. I shared information. I hope it's okay. I shared your email. They might be contacting you. Like, I love that. And sometimes those folks do follow up, and I love to get them engaged, and I'm always, open to answer any questions specific to, our agency and our hiring process, but also the career in general. I mean, in the long run, Ann Arbor may not be where they end up, but if that means that we've got another good police officer on the streets in Pittsfield Township or, some other part of the state, then I think that that's a bonus for our profession.
This particular individual, I think I talked to at U of M Dearborn, but there's other places that you go on recruiting trips. Can you name a few of those? We've
really, in the last 2 years, I've partnered with Human Resources Recruiting Supervisor, and I'll also pull in different folks from our department to go on these events with us. But yeah, we've been everywhere from different community colleges like Washtenaw Community College, Mott, Schoolcraft, but also four-year schools. Ferris State is one that has a very strong criminal justice program, but then in addition to that, Saginaw Valley, University of Detroit Mercy, Wayne State, U of M Dearborn, U of M Flint. So we're really trying to look at, really what's drivable for candidates who would be interested in coming to the city of Ann Arbor, but also recognizing even if we're making a trip for 2.5 hours away for a recruiting event, that it's very possible that kids are attending that school, that Washtenaw County is their hometown,
right.
And then so it's so we're really just trying to get ourselves out there so plenty of people know that there's opportunity at the Ann Arbor Police Department, and there will be for the next several years. Yeah,
because I had no idea your reach was that far. I mean, I knew that you kind of stuck around here, but I didn't know that you went to all those places. So that's a learning experience for me. So if you get through, when you get your initial application, and then there's a process that goes on. There's some testing and some other things that go on, and then there's to kind of plant the seed. There's a difference between if I'm coming in as a police officer with experience versus somebody that's coming in as a brand new kind of an entry-level police officer.
Correct. We hire new police officers kind of three different avenues to getting hired. One of which, as you already mentioned, you've been a police officer somewhere else. So that's what we classify as a lateral hire. And that means you have 2 or more years of prior sworn experience at another agency. And that can be out of state as well. So you would apply to the lateral if you're interested in making the change and coming to Ann Arbor. And they start out at a little bit higher of a pay rate if you have that prior experience. And those requirements are basically 60 credit hours, no felony convictions, clean driving record, good moral character. You must be a U.S. citizen, and you have to be older than 21 years of age. So that's the lateral.
Okay.
Then the second one would be what we classify as the entry-level police officer. So that is, you might be currently enrolled in a police academy. You have already completed one, but maybe you haven't found employment yet as a police officer. Or you are a current police officer, but you have less than 2 years experience, so really you're a new officer. So that's considered the entry level, and those requirements that I mentioned for the lateral, the 60 credit hours, U.S. citizen, no felony convictions, it's the same requirement for that one as well. And then the third one, which we really, we started up again, this will now be, actually we'll be going into year 3, is sponsorship for candidates. So if we identify somebody who is really squared away, would be a good fit as a police officer for the city of Ann Arbor, but they don't have the academy yet, we hire them as an Ann Arbor Police Department employee. They're employed by us, only we pay for their academy. We also pay them to attend the academy while they're there, and then they also have full benefits. So the understanding is that you go complete the police academy at our expense, but then you become an Ann Arbor police officer when you're done, when you successfully complete the academy. So,
Okay.
And that obviously is, I think that's great for the city, and it's also great for the candidates, because the academy is quite an experience, and it can also be very expensive. So for those that are selected for that position, it's a very positive thing.
Well, there's a lot of hours that go into a police academy, and I think probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000.
Yep.
I mean, if
Yes.
it's out of pocket, if I were just to walk in and say I want to put myself through the police academy, it's not cheap.
It is not cheap, and
not cheap.
like as you stated, it could be $5,000, $6,000. It's typically the length of a college semester, and they are offered at community colleges across the state. So Schoolcraft, Washtenaw Community College, Mott Community College, Lansing, Oakland, Macomb, they all have police academies. But so if you think about it, if you're attending it the course of a college semester, you're there on average anywhere from 40 to 55 hours per week at the academy. So really that's a full-time job for you. Certainly I have heard success stories of folks who work in addition to attending the academy, but that's a huge undertaking for that individual. And it's got to be draining and very exhausting. So it is very hard for folks to work while they attend the academy. So the sponsorship is really ideal in many ways, and we do see a lot of applicants for those processes because they know that they're going to be taken care of and they won't have to pay for the academy.
Now, if I were a person that came in as a sponsored candidate, and you're going to sponsor me into the police academy, would I have to have the 60 hours of 60 credit hours prior to that, or would that police academy?
Actually, so right now what it is, our education requirement for sponsorship with the last two processes has been you need to have a full bachelor's degree.
Oh, okay.
There are conversations right now and discussions about standardizing it across all of our processes, so whether it's lateral, entry level, or the sponsorship, that it's 60 credit hours plus. With the sponsorship, it may involve with counting military experience and or full-time work experience to try and balance that out a little bit more, because that is a big investment for the department. We want to make sure that this person is the right person, can handle themselves, and will be successful in the academy. And certainly we're going to do everything in our power that now that you have been selected for this to help you along the way and make sure that you are successful.
Yeah, because quite honestly, there's a lot at stake.
Yes.
There.
Yep.
For the city and for that person too. That we
For
want them to be successful. And so as we get through and we've talked about the hiring part and getting people into a police academy, and then there's some other testing. I mean, there's as far as the process goes, like there's a conditional offer of employment, and so how does that work in this whole matrix of hiring and where does that fall?
As I mentioned previously, we have the open application window. It's very defined, open and closed dates. So that'll be open for 30 days. Once the closure date comes, we will close it. We have what the next stage is, a resume review. So we're essentially going to look through everyone's resume and the application to make sure that what you have on your resume matched what's on the application, and that everything lines up. And if we have any questions, that we're not seeing things add up, we may reach out to the applicant to get additional information, and or some won't have the academy. If they're applying to the entry level, then they at minimum have to already be enrolled in an academy or completed it. So if we don't see that, then that will be the end of that process for that person. So we do the resume review, and then from that point, we're going to extend invitations for our on-site testing. So we usually offer, it depends on how many applicants we have, but usually that's over the course of 3 or 4 days where applicants come on site. It's about a 4 to 5 hour written test, I don't want to say it's not interactive, but it's on a video with filling out your answers, and then once we receive the scores back from the test, at that point, those that have passed that portion of it, they're extended an invitation for a phone interview. So it's just a little bit more in-depth resume review, but now we're interacting with the candidate on the phone, asking them questions about their resume, getting to know them a little bit better, and also really, for some, that's the first time that they've now had access to us, if I haven't already previously spoken with them, to ask us questions about the City of Ann Arbor, about the Ann Arbor Police Department, about the process. So usually candidates have some really good questions during that time, and so yeah, that's about 15, 20 minutes spent with each one. So those that are selected to move on from that point, then they're invited on site for a panel interview, which consists of both representatives from the Ann Arbor Police Department and then our human resources. And that interview will take about an hour, and it's getting to know the candidate, situational questions, just really figuring out how this person may or may not be able to handle themselves within the City of Ann Arbor and within our department. And then after that, that's when we make the recommendations to the Chief of Police, and he ultimately has the say. And then at that point, then conditional offers of employment are extended to the candidate. And so then kind of starts the next phase of the whole hiring process, that now that we have the ones that we would like to see on site, but then they have to complete a very, very thorough background investigation. And the background packet is very thick that we ask them to fill out, and it's diving, what elementary school did you go to? We're talking to your neighbors, like all that good stuff. So really figuring out who this person really is that we want to hire as a police officer. And the conditional offer of employment that comes from the Chief of Police, that is contingent upon successful completion of your background investigation, medical exam, drug screen, and psychological evaluation. So assuming that all steps of that part are passed, then the person is given the final phone call to say, congratulations, you are clear to begin here at the Ann Arbor Police Department. So,
Wow.
Yep.
I'm not sure I'd make it now.
It's a lengthy process.
Wow.
Start to finish.
Especially on the psychological part. I'm
Yeah,
not sure I'd make it
all
through
right.
that.
I think you'd be all right. So yeah, that's a 5 to 6 month process,
Yeah.
though, and that's
Okay.
really, it really takes sitting down and planning out exactly how to keep this moving forward. Some agencies, their processes can go a year. Some shorten them up. Ours is 5 to 6 months, start to finish, and you're going to know where you're at the end of that. And then the person that really, at the end of 5 to 6 months, they're on site and starting their career here with us. So
We have a potential of losing like 40% of our people within the next maybe 3 years, 5 years to retirements. Doesn't mean everybody's going to retire, but there's that potential.
Right.
These hiring processes are going to be continual for some time.
Yeah, we
for the foreseeable
anticipate
future.
that we will be doing this every 6 months and looking for a handful of folks each time. And and that's really, it's a challenge for us because we've already established that we'll hire laterals, entry level, we're going to sponsor you. So right there you may have a really broad range of experience, and that to us is kind of what we want to see. We don't have a specific number in mind as far as we want this many people with prior experience or we want this many new people, but it is helpful for us because of how much knowledge and experience will be retiring in the coming years. I mean, everybody has their area of expertise within our agency, and so those are big shoes to fill with walking out the door. And so we do like to see, I mean, we won't hesitate to hire, if somebody comes to us from another agency with 15 years of experience, if they're a good person and they're the right fit and we feel like they would make great contributions to the Ann Arbor Police Department, then we're just as likely to say yes to somebody like that than somebody who's brand new with no prior experience straight out of the academy. So just looking for the best people, bottom line.
Because they could be bringing institutional wisdom from where they came from
Exactly.
and contributing to our organization.
Exactly.
But it doesn't necessarily mean, if like you said, if they're not the right fit, whether they're coming right out of the police academy or whether they have 10 or 15 years experience at another police department, if they're not the right fit, it's probably not going to happen for them.
Correct.
We're are we picky? I think we are.
We are picky.
For lack of a better term, I think we're selective.
We are selective, and our processes are very competitive. Yeah. We still, I feel for a lot of agencies around the state, nationwide, recruiting, or I should say police applicants are down significantly. Yeah. And so not a lot of people are choosing this profession anymore. And I have heard stories from other agencies where they need to hire 5 officers and they just can't even get 5 applicants to fill those spots. That's tough. Fortunately, we're not, while our numbers are also down, we're not quite in that spot. So our processes are still competitive, and a lot of people want to come to our department. So that's still a very positive thing for us.
So as I stated earlier, though, we really want to diversify where we're recruiting, and so we're trying to put our reach out there even further, because really when we go to academies and we talk to recruits and potential applicants, they're falling into one demographic group, and with as diverse as the city of Ann Arbor is, we really want to see a very diverse group of applicants so we can choose the very best from that applicant pool and be reflective of the city.
And I recall at the end of that video, that snapshot video, mm-hmm. there's a couple of websites on there. That's how people would get into the city website to do the job applications and find out that there are jobs posted.
There is a specific jobs tab it's a general jobs tab, so it's really anything that Human Resources has listed. So it'll have everything from raw water treatment plant to working for fleet or facilities mm-hmm. to police officer. Okay. But yeah, it would list everything, and police officer would be underneath that. So, and then certainly I think there was also had the general mailbox for the Ann Arbor Police Department, and those all eventually get routed to me to answer any questions that potential applicants may have.
And how many applicants you get for these 2 times a year?
It averages, each time's a little bit different, but I would say it's anywhere between 150 to 350.
Okay. So the numbers are big.
The numbers are big. Like I said, other agencies they're hurting to find qualified applicants, mm-hmm. where I still feel like our numbers are, while they're down compared, I've heard when we were back in the 80s and early 90s that there would easily be upwards to 1,000 applicants for a couple spots. So I hope we get back there someday. This is a great profession, and I hope that people want to make a difference, and that it starts to swing the other way where people are drawn back into this profession. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for right now they're down, but we're still okay.
Yeah, having worked at a police department before I came here, I have something to compare it to, and this is it's really no kidding. It's a great place to work. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of camaraderie, and there's a lot of kind of a family feel to this police department, and we get the job done. And I think we do it right. Mm-hmm. We do it right here. So.
And there's really, as I reflect back on my own career, there's just the opportunity. I feel like I've experienced and I've been able to do a lot of different things in my career, and they've all been fulfilling in different ways. And I've had different experiences from each of those, and it'd be 20 years for me in January, mm-hmm. and as I reflect back on it, there's not a whole lot I would change, and I'm thankful for each of those experiences.
Yeah, I think when we were driving over here today, we were talking about me being here 23 years and Jamie being here almost 20 years. The people in the locker room when I was brand new, and they would say, yeah, before you know it, you're going to be in my shoes and you'll have 20 plus years on, and there's a lot of truth to that. Yep. That I'm feeling it right now.
And here we are.
I don't know where the time went. It just flew. But
and you were one of my training officers too, and here we are.
That's a good indication that it's not drudgery coming in. So
no, not at all.
Well, that's all the time we have. Jamie, thank you. You've been a wealth of information for this, and I hope that the viewers enjoyed this, learned something from it, and maybe we'll actually get some police candidates out of this. So
that'd be great.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.